Bring Her Back is the new supernatural horror film that was directed by the Philippou brothers, the same directors that brought us Talk to Me. And in this video, of course, I'm reviewing the movie I just watched, this movie I just watched in theaters. I will be talking about a lot of points that will spoil the movie, so this is, of course, a spoiler alert. Now, before I start this review, let me first say that when we went to go watch this movie, the theater was hot. I was dying in there. I don't know what it was. I think the AC wasn't turned on or anything, but there was a lot of people and it was hot. And I was feeling claustrophobic because I had people all over me and it was hot. And I can't be the only person who has experienced this in theaters. But anyway, let's start with the review. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how I honestly thought that this movie here was going to be scarier than Talk to Me. When I saw the trailer, when I was reviewing or reacting to the trailer, I thought this movie was going to be terrifying. And it wasn't. It wasn't as scary as Talk to Me. I felt like Talk to Me had more, definitely had more jump scares. From what I remember, it was a lot more scarier. But even though it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, this movie here, I like this movie more than I like Talk to Me. I don't know. I just felt like the story was more compelling than that of Talk to Me. And basically, the reason why I felt like this movie wasn't as scary is because it really focused on bringing the tension. It used a lot of suspense, and it was basically a big build-up to the end. Not to mention, it didn't have any jump scares. Now, I will say, I love the fact that they didn't utilize jump scares. I think throughout the entire movie, there was only one jump scare that happened. And I love that because it was more about the situation that was scary. You know, you felt scared for Andy and Piper. You knew that something was up. You knew that Laura was acting weird right off the rip. So I definitely don't really mind that they didn't use much jump scares and it wasn't as scary as Talk to Me. Because I am very tired of watching movies. I've watched a lot of movies recently, new movies, where they used jump scares throughout the entire movie. Basically, the movie was scary because of jump scares, right? If you're going to use jump scares in a horror movie, you got to at least be creative with the jump scares. I mean, really, you can do a jump scare out of anything. I can have a picture of my ass and then put it on screen with some noise in the background, and that would be a jump scare. You wouldn't know what you're looking at, but because of the noise and the suddenness, it's a jump scare, right? So I'm tired of movies. I've watched many movies recently where they use jump scares to just bring the scare, right? And there's nothing of substance behind it, right? It's just, for example, you have the classic, it's an intense scene, and the next you know, the main character's like friend like comes up to him and like jump scares him by touching his shoulder or something like that. I mean, I've seen that in so many movies, and again, that's why I'm happy that this movie didn't have that. You felt the tension throughout the movie because you knew there was something bad that was going to happen to Piper and Andy. Of course, Andy and Piper, they're in this brother and sister relationship, and you want the best for them, of course. But you knew that there was something up, right? And throughout the movie, of course, you find out that Laura is simply trying to, I wouldn't say simply, but she's trying to bring her daughter back, and she's trying to sacrifice Piper. And of course, she's trying to paint Andy as the bad guy, someone that Piper shouldn't trust. She's manipulating Piper, the innocent, the blind, for what she wants, of course. So you definitely felt that danger for Piper and Andy. Something I do wish there was more in this movie of is the VHS scenes, right? The VHS scenes is the reason why I was interested in this movie in the first place, right? When you watch the trailer, it shows all the VHS tapes, and I was like, man, this movie is going to be scary. It looked scary, and knowing that it's the same directors from Talk to Me, I thought this was going to be, again, one of the scariest movies of this year, but we didn't get that, and so I feel like we should have had a little bit more on that. The movie was a bit long, so I understand. And they didn't necessarily have to explain everything, right? As long as you knew that Laura was getting this information through the VHS tape. But where did she find this VHS tapes, right? Who are these people who are doing these rituals, right? More backstory. And I wonder if they're going to make another movie that revolves around the actual VHS tapes. I would absolutely love that. And of course, this movie being directed by the Philippou brothers, they really know how to make someone bloody and possessed. Just look at Connor alone. This boy went through everything. My boy Connor got possessed. He got, beat up, everything. There's a lot of scenes that made you cringe, right? I noticed that it made everyone in the theater cringe as well. For example, you have the scene where Connor bites onto the knife. I mean, I feel like everyone is talking about that scene. And that scene is terrible, man. It made me cringe. It was sickening. Of course, you have Andy trying to feed Connor, and he passes him the knife with the melon. The camera focuses on Andy trying to get another, I think it was a plate or something. The camera pans back and he's biting on the knife. I mean, watching that definitely made you sick. Not just that, you have the other scene where Connor eats his skin. He's like ripping up his own skin because, of course, he's possessed. And the demon within him, whatever was within him, wanted to eat on something, right? So he's over there eating his own skin. So yeah, my poor boy Connor went through a lot. Thank goodness he survived at the end. But of course, he's going to be traumatized for the rest of his life. Another scene that shocked me, and I feel like it shocked most of the people in the theater, was when the lady and Andy get run over by Laura. I mean, that scene was unexpected. You knew that something bad was going to happen to the lady, but the way she went out, the way she got swept by the car was crazy. I did not expect that. And lastly, we cannot forget about how emotional this movie was at some points. Of course, you have the relationship between Piper and Andy. Their parents died. And you have that little scene where Andy tells Piper that, or they hear the commercial plane fly over, and Andy is basically tells Piper that is dad leaving to heaven and whatnot. And then you have the same thing at the very end of the movie where Piper's in the car leaving the place and she hears the commercial plane flying over. And of course, she's thinking about Andy dying. Now, Andy dying was unexpected as well, but I think it made the movie feel more realistic, more real. And I think they did a great job of doing that. Of course, I didn't want Andy to die, but it made the movie more emotional. So yeah, this movie was definitely a good movie in my opinion. Definitely a movie you want to watch in theaters if you haven't already, which I kind of spoiled it for you. But anyway, this movie was different than many of the horror movies that I've watched recently. It wasn't as scary, right? The scare wasn't there, but it was still engaging. It was full of surprises, and I enjoyed watching it. But yeah, I thought that this movie was good. Let me know what you guys think. But that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time I finish reading a book or watching a movie.